The stars stretched across the black canvas of space like scattered diamonds, cold and distant. Captain Vryn of the Zalari Armada stared out of the observation window, his eyes narrowing at the new system appearing on the galactic maps. The Sol system, the home of humans, had suddenly drawn attention from every corner of the galaxy. Many had whispered about humanity, a species small in numbers but fierce in spirit. But Vryn had never believed the legends. How could humans, so primitive compared to the Zalari, possibly pose a threat? "Commander Threx," Vryn said, turning to the tactician beside him. "Prepare the fleet. We will strike at dawn. This world will kneel." Threx's forearms flexed nervously. "Sir, the reports, they say humans never surrender. They fight to the last breath even when all hope seems lost." Vryn laughed, a harsh grating sound. "Legends. Every species resists before it falls. We are gods to them. One strike and they will crumble like dust." Meanwhile, far below, on a small planet called Earth, the humans slept. Cities twinkled like tiny constellations, unaware that alien eyes were watching, planning, and calculating. In a quiet coastal city, alarms suddenly pierced the night. People woke in confusion and fear. But within moments, soldiers and civilians alike began organizing. Humanity did not panic. It acted. General Kara Novak, her hair streaked with gray and her eyes sharp and unwavering, surveyed the command room, buzzing with energy. She looked at her officers and said quietly but with strength, "They think they can scare us. They've never faced humanity united. We will not bow. We will not surrender." Outside, the first Zalari ships cut through the atmosphere, their energy beams turning night into fire. Humans scrambled, but their response was immediate. Fighter jets, designed only months ago, performed maneuvers the aliens had never anticipated. Missiles and lasers met the Zalari's attacks with precision. Humans had taken science meant for exploration and turned it into defense. Vryn's pride cracked as he watched the human fighter jets dodge effortlessly. "How?" he muttered, voice tight with disbelief. Every ship he sent to destroy the humans returned damaged or exploded entirely. His scouts reported something he couldn't understand. Humans were helping each other, saving lives even while under attack, repairing machines while bullets and energy beams rained down around them. On the ground, Kara moved among her people like a calm storm. She handed water to a trembling recruit, comforted the injured, and directed evacuation efforts with a quiet authority. "We fight for each other," she whispered to herself, her voice strong but soft. "We fight because this is our home, and we will not surrender." In the Zalari fleet, murmurs of unease spread. A few of Vryn's officers whispered behind closed doors. Legends were true, one said. Humans, they do not fear death. They do not bend. They fight like fire even when everything is lost. But Vryn refused to hear it. He clenched his fists. "No, they are insignificant. They cannot resist the Zalari Armada. One planet cannot stop an empire." Yet, as night deepened and Earth cities glowed defiantly beneath the alien siege, something remarkable became clear. Humanity was not like any species the Zalari had faced before. They were resilient, fearless, and fiercely united. Every beam fired at them was met with resistance. Every strike that should have broken them instead strengthened their resolve. The Zalari had come to conquer, expecting an easy victory. Instead, they faced something they had never imagined. A species small in size but immense in heart. A species that refused to bow, refused to fear, and refused to surrender. And in the heart of this chaos, Captain Vryn felt the first stirrings of doubt. Humanity had awoken, the battle had begun, and the stars themselves seemed to pause, as if watching the rise of a force no one had truly understood. Until now. The Zalari High Council's chamber glimmered with cold, metallic light. Vryn stood before the council elders, pride fading into a thin veil of anxiety. Their eyes were like polished obsidian, piercing into him as they spoke. "You disobeyed intelligence reports," one elder said sharply. "The humans are not like any species we have conquered. They fight with something, more than courage. They fight with spirit." Vryn straightened, anger rising. "Spirit cannot save them. We are gods to them. One strike, one single strike, and they will crumble." The council did not flinch. Another elder stepped forward, voice low and steady. "You will see. Humans are unlike anything in our history. Our scouts have observed them survive conditions that would destroy other species. They adapt faster than we can anticipate. They fight harder than any army, and even when their cities fall, their will does not. This is why our ancestors warned us, do not attack the humans. They will never surrender. Vryn's fists clenched. Legends, myths. Nothing more. The counselor's voice cut through the room, sharper than any blade. Legends exist for a reason, Captain. You are witnessing the truth now. Proceed if you must, but know this. Your arrogance will bring ruin to your name and to our empire. Far below on Earth, humanity was already in motion. General Kara Novak moved through the command center, watching screens that displayed alien ships hovering above cities. Fires burned in distant districts, but the humans did not falter. Soldiers coordinated defense, engineers repaired systems, and ordinary citizens rallied to help each other. Fear existed, yes, but so did courage. It shone brighter than any laser in the night. A young pilot, Captain Leon, ran up to Kara, adrenaline crackling in her voice. Ma'am, they're stronger than we thought. Every wave of attack we repel only brings them closer with more ships. But they're not breaking us, they never will. Kara looked at her face calm, but her eyes carried fire. Then we will show them exactly what humanity can do. Not because we are strong in numbers, but because we are strong in heart. We fight for our world, our families, and for each other. That is why we will never surrender. In the skies, humans intercepted alien fighters with precision that baffled the Zalari. Missiles that should have destroyed entire cities were neutralized. Shields and barricades built in mere days held against alien fire. Even in chaos, humans saved civilians trapped beneath debris, risking their own lives again and again. Vryn watched from his flagship, fury and disbelief battling within him. How can they resist? He muttered to Threx. They are insignificant. They have no experience, no training comparable to the Zalari. And yet, they fight. Threx, forearms folded, spoke cautiously. They fight for more than themselves, sir. They fight for their homes, their families, their planet. They fight with purpose. That is why they survive. That is why they will not surrender. Even some Zalari officers began whispering among themselves, fear creeping into their hearts. The legends were true, one said quietly. They are not a normal species. Their spirit is unbreakable. Night fell on Earth, but the human cities glowed defiantly, illuminated by fires of survival, rescue operations, and the determination of a species refusing to bow. Families huddled together, teaching children to help and to fight. Every fallen soldier became a symbol, every rescue a story of hope. Vryn clenched his jaw, pacing the deck. His pride battled against the rising realization. Humans were not like any prey he had faced. They were not a species to conquer easily. They were a force that could not be measured with weapons alone. And as the Zalari fleet regrouped, doubt whispered among the leaders. Perhaps the legends were not lies. Perhaps humans truly never surrender. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Kara prepared for the battles ahead. She knew the fight would be long and brutal. Yet even in the darkest hours, her voice carried calm and confidence. We do not surrender. We will endure. We will rise again, stronger than before. That is who we are. That is humanity. The first warning had been given, but the Zalari had not yet listened. Humanity had already begun to prove itself. The sky above Earth was ablaze. Alien ships cut through the clouds like dark comets, firing beams of energy that turned night into molten chaos. Cities shook, buildings crumbled, and oceans boiled under the heat of Zalari weapons. Humanity had never seen destruction like this, yet they did not falter. On the front lines, General Kara Novak moved among her soldiers, her eyes calm despite the firestorm around her. She gave orders that were precise and unwavering. Evacuate the civilians here. Shield the hospitals. Keep the communication lines open. And remember, we fight together. Captain Leon dove her fighter jet through the debris, dodging beams that could have incinerated her in an instant. They underestimated us, she thought, her hands steady on the controls. They think we are weak. They think fear will make us surrender. They are wrong. Even as alien bombs fell, humans retaliated in ways the Zalari could not have predicted. Engineers repurposed old satellites and communication systems into weapons. Civilians built barricades and reinforced shelters in hours. Soldiers coordinated attacks with uncanny precision, anticipating every move of the enemy. Vryn, aboard his flagship, watched the humans' resilience with growing anger. How can a species so small resist so much? He demanded of Threx. The tactician, arms folded, did not hide his unease. They fight for more than survival, sir. They fight for family. They fight for home. And when one falls, another rises. That is why they endure. That is why they never surrender. Vryn slammed a fist against a console, sparks flying. Impossible. They are insignificant. They cannot possibly continue like this. Meanwhile, across the burning cities, ordinary humans performed extraordinary acts. Children led the way through rubble, helping trapped neighbors. Firefighters carried the wounded from collapsing buildings. Scientists worked through explosions, improvising new weapons and shields from scraps of technology. Humanity had become a storm the aliens could not stop. The first alien ships began to falter, destroyed by clever traps and human ingenuity. Threx observed quietly, whispering to his captain, "They are extraordinary. Not a single species has ever fought like this." Even the Zalari soldiers began to feel fear. They had trained for war, studied hundreds of species, yet none had shown the sheer willpower of humanity. The humans did not fight for glory. They did not fight for empire. They fought for each other, for life, for hope. And in that they were unstoppable. On the ground, General Kara paused to look at a young recruit trembling in fear. She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Do you see?" she asked softly. "We fight not because we want war, but because we must protect each other. That is what makes us human. That is why we never surrender." In orbit, Zalari ships were falling at a shocking rate. Each loss angered Vryn more, but he could not stop the rising truth in his heart. Humans were not just resisting, they were defying fate itself. By the end of the first night, Earth was scarred but not defeated. Cities were damaged, yet still standing. Civilians were shaken, yet not broken. Humanity had shown the galaxy something the Zalari could not ignore. Courage was stronger than fire, spirit stronger than weapons. As Vryn stared at the battlefield, he whispered in disbelief, "How? How do they endure this?" Threx, quiet and cautious, answered simply, "They endure because they must. They endure because they love each other. They endure because surrender is not in their nature." And far below, amidst the smoke and chaos, General Kara looked up at the alien ships and smiled. Not with arrogance, but with determination. "Fight all you want," she said. "You will never break us. You will never crush humanity. Because we do not surrender. Ever." The Zalari had come to conquer. Instead, they had awoken a force they could not contain. Humanity had begun to prove that even against a galaxy of darkness, light and courage could not be extinguished. The battle raged across Earth's skies. Cities were scarred, oceans steamed, and the air was thick with fire and smoke. Yet humanity did not falter. They fought with courage, with ingenuity, and above all with heart. Every loss became a lesson, every victory a spark of hope. Above the chaos, a new presence appeared. Alien ships, unlike the Zalari, hovered silently, their hulls gleaming in the starlight. They did not attack. They did not fire weapons. They came as observers, witnesses to the human defiance. The Thalrians, a peaceful but wise species known across the galaxy for diplomacy, opened a channel to Vryn. "Captain Vryn," their voice echoed through the armada. "Calm and steady. Do not continue this attack. Humanity is unlike any species you have faced. If you strike further, you will bring ruin upon yourselves. They never surrender. They will endure, adapt, and rise again. Even if you destroy one city, 10 more will fight in its place." Vryn's pride flared. "They are just a primitive species. How can they resist the might of the Zalari armada?" The Thalrian ambassador responded, voice firm but gentle. "We have watched countless species across countless worlds. None have survived as humans do. They fight not for glory, not for conquest, but for each other, for their homes, for their families. That is why legends warned our kind. Do not attack the humans. They will never surrender." Even Threx, the tactician, found himself silent for a moment, considering the words. "Sir," he said finally, voice low, "look at them. They are not weak. They are not afraid. They fight with a strength we cannot measure with weapons or ships. They fight with heart. That is why we cannot defeat them." Meanwhile, on Earth, General Kara Novak coordinated her forces. The appearance of the Thalrian ships was a signal that the galaxy had noticed. "They are watching us," she said to Captain Leon. "And I think they may be on our side." The humans had learned to use the alien technology around them. Satellites, old communication arrays, and even abandoned Zalari drones were repurposed into weapons, shields, and warning systems. Engineers worked day and night. Civilians moved supplies, and soldiers fought with renewed determination. Humanity was transforming. From chaos arose innovation. From fear, courage. In the skies, the Thalrians observed silently. They sent aid discreetly, small devices to enhance human shields and repair critical systems. They did not interfere directly, but their presence gave humans a hope that had been absent before. Humanity was not alone. The galaxy itself had begun to notice their spirit. Vryn grew frustrated as more of his ships fell. His fleet had expected surrender. Instead, humans adapted faster than he could anticipate. A city bombarded in the morning rose again by night, defended by human ingenuity and determination. Every attack only made them stronger. Threx whispered again, "Sir, look at them. They do not fight for themselves alone. They fight for every man, woman, and child around them. That is why they endure. That is why they will not surrender." Vryn slammed his fist on the console. "No, we are the Zalari. We do not fail. How can one planet, one species resist an empire?" But the Thalrian's words lingered in his mind. They will never surrender. And slowly a seed of doubt began to grow, like a shadow in the corner of his pride. On Earth, Kara looked out across the battlefield. Fires burned, buildings were ruined, yet humans moved with purpose. Children carried supplies, neighbors dug through rubble, soldiers coordinated attacks. Every human was a beacon of defiance, proof that surrender was not an option. She turned to her team and said, voice steady and filled with conviction, "We do not fight because we are strong. We fight because we are human. We fight for each other. That is our weapon. That is our shield, and that is why we will never surrender." As the sun set, painting the skies red and gold, humans prepared for the next wave. Their courage had drawn attention across the stars. The Thalrians had warned the Zalari, but humanity did not need warnings. They were already showing the galaxy their unbreakable spirit. And somewhere in the distance, Captain Vryn realized that the war he thought would be simple was far from over. Humanity had found allies, courage, and strength beyond anything he had imagined. The battle for Earth was only the beginning. The Zalari Armada had underestimated humanity, and the truth was now undeniable. Losses mounted at an alarming rate. Ships that had once struck fear across the galaxy now fell to human ingenuity and unyielding courage. The humans fought not just with weapons, but with creativity, unity, and an unbreakable spirit. Captain Vryn paced on the bridge of his flagship, his pride crumbling under the weight of repeated defeats. How can one species resist so much?" he muttered, voice tight with anger. Threx stood nearby, arms folded, watching the reports with a mixture of awe and fear. "They do not fight for glory, sir," Threx said cautiously. "They fight for each other. They fight for home. Every loss only makes them stronger. That is why they endure. That is why they will not surrender." Across Earth, the humans' resolve shone brighter than ever. General Kara Novak oversaw a daring counterattack on one of the Zalari's main supply ships orbiting the planet. With repurposed satellites, modified fighter jets, and precise strategy, the humans struck with unprecedented precision. The ship exploded in a shower of sparks and debris, a signal that humanity was no longer on the defensive. Civilians worked alongside soldiers, moving supplies, repairing systems, and guiding evacuation efforts. Children carried messages, built small barricades, and even assisted in medical aid. Every human had become a part of the defense, and every act of bravery inspired another. Captain Leon led a squadron through debris-filled skies, dodging energy beams and outmaneuvering enemy ships. "They think fear will make us surrender," she shouted over comms. "They are wrong. We fight for life, for home, for each other." Even some of the Zalari soldiers began to whisper in disbelief. How can a species so small fight so strongly?" one said to another. Another shook his head. "It is not strength of arms. It is something else. Spirit. They never give up. They never surrender." Vryn felt the first seeds of doubt take root in his mind. He had commanded fleets across hundreds of systems. Yet humanity was unlike any species he had faced. Every plan he devised was met with adaptation. Every attack countered with unexpected strategies. They were resilient, united, and fearless. On the ground, Kara addressed her people. Fires still burned in parts of the city, but her voice was calm, full of resolve. "We may have scars. We may have lost loved ones. But we are human. And humanity never surrenders. Every city we rebuild, every life we save, every victory we achieve, it all proves that we are unstoppable. Not because we are the strongest, but because we fight for each other." Across the galaxy, other species began to take notice. Observers who had watched from afar realized that humans were more than a planet of survivors. They were a symbol of courage, unity, and indomitable will. Some offered aid, quietly sending technology, supplies, and knowledge to support the humans. The Zalari fleet, once confident in their supremacy, began to falter. Supply lines were disrupted, command ships were destroyed, and morale was at an all-time low. Vrin's anger and frustration grew with each passing hour, but he could not find a way to turn the tide. Threx, ever cautious, whispered in the captain's ear, "Sir, we cannot win, not because of their weapons, but because of their heart. They do not fear death. They do not give in. That is why humanity endures. That is why they will never surrender." Vrin clenched his fists, staring at the burning blue planet below. He had expected an easy conquest, a simple victory. Instead, he faced a truth he could not escape. Humanity was unstoppable. They fought with something no weapon could destroy: the courage to endure, the will to protect, and the unbreakable bond between each other. And on Earth, as the sun rose over scarred cities, Kara watched her people rebuild, heal, and prepare for the next wave. "We fight not for ourselves alone," she said softly. "We fight for everyone. That is what makes us human. That is why we will never surrender." The tide had turned. Humanity had risen from the ashes of destruction and fear, and the universe had begun to see that a small blue planet could defy empires, shatter legends, and prove that spirit is stronger than power. Months had passed since the Zalari first descended upon Earth. Cities bore the scars of battle. Oceans shimmered with molten streaks from alien weapons, and skies were often streaked with smoke and fire. Yet humanity endured. Every day brought new challenges, but humans met each one with courage, resilience, and heart. General Kara Novak walked through a rebuilt city street, observing people who were once terrified but now moved with purpose. Children carried supplies, scientists repaired damaged systems, and families worked together to fortify homes. Even the elderly contributed, teaching younger generations how to survive, how to protect, and how to hope. Humanity had become a living, breathing network of resistance and determination. Captain Leon returned from a daring mission to destroy an alien command post orbiting Earth. She landed her fighter jet and ran to Kara. Excitement and exhaustion etched across her face. "Ma'am, they are losing their hold. Ships are retreating. The humans, our people, are unstoppable." Kara smiled softly but firmly. "It is not just weapons or strategy, Captain. It is our spirit. That is what makes us strong. That is why we endure. That is why we will never surrender." Across the world, humans adapted alien technology with astonishing speed. Engineers transformed Zalari drones into surveillance units. Scientists converted alien energy shields to protect entire cities, and ordinary citizens became heroes, guiding others through dangerous zones, carrying the injured, and standing between destruction and survival. Every human was a force, and together they became unstoppable. Even the Zalari fleet, once confident in their supremacy, now faltered. Losses mounted daily, morale dropped, and doubt spread among their officers. Vrin, staring at the battle reports on his command deck, could hardly believe what he saw. How can this species survive everything we throw at them?" he whispered, his voice trembling with frustration. Threx, his tactician, stood quietly beside him. "Sir, it is not just survival. It is courage, unity, and determination. They do not fight for conquest. They fight for each other. That is why they endure. That is why they never surrender." In the skies above, human pilots executed daring maneuvers, dodging alien attacks while delivering precise strikes on enemy supply lines. On the ground, civilians rebuilt hospitals, repaired power grids, and prepared defenses for future waves. Even children became symbols of hope, carrying messages, water, and supplies to those on the front lines. Kara stood on a hill overlooking the city, watching the sun rise through clouds of smoke. Her voice carried across the assembled citizens and soldiers. "We may have been attacked by forces greater than ourselves. We may have lost homes and even loved ones, but humanity is more than strength or numbers. We are courage, unity, and heart. That is why we survive. That is why we endure. And that is why we will never surrender." Far in orbit, Thalrian observers recorded the events with awe. "This is extraordinary," one said. "Never have we seen a species so small wield such power through spirit alone." Humanity does not rely on weapons or fleets. They rely on heart, and heart is far stronger than any armament. Vryn turned away from the observation screens, his pride shattered. He realized that no fleet, no weapon, and no empire could break humanity. Not because they were invincible, but because they fought for something greater than themselves. They fought for life, for love, for each other. That was their true weapon. On Earth, the humans continued to rebuild, adapt, and fight. Every sunrise brought new hope. Every human who helped another, every life saved, every act of courage reinforced a single truth. Humanity would never surrender. And in that truth, the universe began to take notice. The blue planet, scarred but alive, had become a beacon of courage. Humans were no longer just survivors. They were legends in the making. As Kara looked toward the horizon, her voice carried softly but clearly. We are humanity. We are not invincible, but we are unstoppable. Because no matter what comes, no matter how dark the night, we will never surrender. The Zalari had learned a lesson they could not unlearn. A species that fights with heart, courage, and unity cannot be conquered. Humanity had awakened, and the galaxy would never forget their spirit. The final battle loomed above Earth's atmosphere. The Zalari Armada, once confident and overwhelming, had been pushed to the edge. Ships burned in orbit, supply lines shattered, and morale among alien forces had crumbled. Humanity had endured months of relentless attacks, yet they stood stronger than ever. General Kara Novak watched from her command center, her calm gaze sweeping across the screens showing Earth cities and the skies above. The humans had learned to use the enemy's technology against them, combining strategy, courage, and ingenuity. Every victory, no matter how small, was proof that humanity's spirit could not be broken. Captain Leon led a squadron of fighter jets through the chaotic sky, dodging energy beams and striking alien ships with precision. Her voice crackled over comms, fierce and determined. For Earth, for humanity, we fight together. We never surrender. On the ground, civilians had become soldiers in their own right. Engineers repaired damaged shields while children carried supplies to the front lines. Families dug trenches and built barricades protecting their neighborhoods. Every human contributed and every contribution mattered. Humanity had become more than an army. They were a force of unity, heart, and courage. Vryn, aboard his flagship, stared at the unfolding chaos with disbelief. The humans were everywhere, unpredictable and unstoppable. How can they endure everything? He muttered to Threx, his voice edged with fear. They fight for more than themselves, sir, Threx said quietly. They fight for each other, for their homes, for life itself. That is why they survive. That is why they will never surrender. As the battle intensified, the Thalarians observed silently, recording humanity's triumph. Even the Zalari could no longer deny it. A single city that had been bombarded into rubble rose again in days. A downed ship was rebuilt and used against its own fleet. Every act of resistance became a symbol of defiance, and every defiance inspired millions. In orbit, human forces executed a daring final strike. Using modified alien technology, they disabled the Zalari command ship, sending its fleet into disarray. Vryn watched in horror as his once mighty armada faltered. He realized the truth he had refused to face. No fleet, no weapon, no empire could conquer humans. Not because they were the strongest in numbers, but because they fought with something the Zalari could never measure: heart. On Earth, Kara addressed her people as the last of the alien forces retreated. Her voice was calm, filled with quiet pride. Look around you. We are scarred, we are tired, and we have lost. But we are alive. We have survived because we fight for each other. That is what makes us human. That is why we never surrender. And that is why we triumph. Across the galaxy, word of humanity's victory spread. Alien observers who had doubted their strength now told stories of courage, ingenuity, and unyielding spirit. Humanity had become a legend, not because of weapons or conquest, but because of heart. Even Vryn, defeated and humbled, could not deny the truth. The humans had awakened something greater than fear or death. They had awakened hope, unity, and the enduring power of spirit. The Zalari had been warned, and now the universe knew. Humans would never bow, never break, and never surrender. As the sun rose over a scarred but resilient planet, Kara stood atop a hill, watching her people rebuild. Children laughed as they carried supplies. Families hugged each other. Soldiers saluted the survivors. Humanity had endured fire, destruction, and fear, but they had emerged stronger. She whispered softly to herself, "We are humanity. Not because we are perfect, not because we are invincible, but because we never give up. Because we fight for each other. That is why we survive. That is why we endure. That is why we will never surrender." And so Earth stood triumphant, a small blue planet whose people had proven to the galaxy that courage, unity, and heart were more powerful than any weapon. Humanity had awakened, and the legend of their indomitable spirit would echo across the stars for generations to come. The universe had learned a truth it could never forget. Humans do not surrender. Humans never give up, and humans against all odds rise stronger than any enemy could imagine.